turn mine on.
No, that doesn't. Oh, it's being recorded. Please disconnect if you don't want to be recorded. I do want to be. So if you record, will we both be able to access it?
I guess. If not, I can always send it to you somehow.
Okay. All right. Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
All right. So, repeating, and it just now occurred to me that I have not shaved in like 3 days, and we're recording this. That was not my best move. No, that's all right. No, you're fine. So what I was saying earlier, for the sake of Dr. Starner, is that maybe we could start by going through roles and responsibilities and the roles and responsibilities we are bringing to this. I think that's probably a good way to start, so we can kind of get a sense for what each of us is talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So that was actually good because I kind of wanted to start there. So I am the Assistant Director of Corporate Marketing at Summit. I know that my boss, so the Director of Corporate Marketing, had been working with, I think, your boss, but we'll get to that, with John, Wright. So they kind of came to a tentative agreement. She is in Michigan for an annual corporate planning meeting right now. So just putting it out there, I mean, she has given me, pretty much everything that I need to make a final decision. So just for the sake of negotiating, I'm not going to use a higher authority on you because I have all the power to make decisions, and that really, my boss and Summit as a whole, they want to have this agreement taken care of by the end of our meeting.
Okay. On my side, really, Mr. Wright has brought me in to kind of help pound out this deal. So obviously this is something that excites him. This is something that as an organization we want to do, and we want to be able to do it right. My goal is to help and take his vision for this development and my job is to turn it into the tangible framework that is going to allow it to be successful. Right. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. With this, it is specifically making sure that we hammer out a win-win deal. Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, you don't want to stay. And unhappy tenants are not going to do anything to help us. And at the same time, if we aren't able to come away with something that is sustainable, then we're not going to be able to maintain the facility, and you guys don't win. We want you guys to be happy, and we want you guys to be happy in a space that is beneficial to all our other tenants and is beneficial to the mall and to the consumers. Right. So at the heart of it, if I do my job right, I see myself as laying the groundwork that allows that to happen and allows Mr. Wright's vision to come to fruition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, cool. Going over a couple of pages, one of the things I was looking at was the actual assignment and subletting agreement. Right. One of the things that in order for this to happen, and quite frankly, it has to be financeable. So we have to work together in order to do that. And so there are, quite frankly, some of the things that I know you guys, it's a standard for you guys, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, just if they are included there, it will not get financed. And if it doesn't get financed, then we can't go forward, and it just doesn't happen. So, I don't know that we have to necessarily start talking about those now, but I just want you to understand my goal is to get this to a point where it can be financed and it can get pushed through the system and we can make it work. Right. That doesn't work but we need, I think we're going to have to be creative and find a way for it to work where it works for you guys. Yeah. So let me go back. If you don't mind, I've made some notes. Can I refer to them?
Sure.
Real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we proposed to you the substitute for Article 22, and specifically it said the premises hereby demise may be used for any lawful purpose, provided that the landlord gives express, or actually, no. If the tenant receives express written approval from the landlord, the tenant may use the sign or sublet as specified in this express written approval under all conditions and all possible changes in the contract. The tenant shall remain liable and responsible under this lease. Mr. Wright's concern is that as it's currently worded, which says the premises hereby demised may be used for any lawful purpose, tenant may assign this lease or sublet the whole or any part of the demised purposes, but if he does so, it shall remain liable and responsible under this lease. Quite frankly, our concern is that allowing us to do that will give you an opening, if you so desire, to deprive the mall of the true anchor store that we need. Mr. Wright submitted that counter proposal. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could start by getting a sense for what your thoughts are, where it does and doesn't work, and then we can go from there. Okay. And start talking about from that standpoint.
Right. Yeah. So I had the substitute. I have it in my notes as well. So like my understanding was that pretty much, if we were to do anything with use, subletting, or assignment, that we would have to get written approval from your end, and then if you approve it, then we can go ahead and go along with that. And it was a good counter, but I think we need some more detail, and I think it needs to kind of get ironed out a little bit more, because really for us, the main focus is that we need flexibility with the space, and we understand that flexibility comes in a lot of different ways. And we really want the space. We don't have as strong of a foothold in the Northeast market in that demographic as we want. So this is a good opportunity for us. So we want to be in that space as well. But, we do have concerns about, really the biggest concern that we have is the internet. People buy things online rather than buying things in stores. And, people go to the mall, but a big concern for us is, even though we see the demographic as a really great opportunity, it's also, the clientele and the people that live in that area, they're the ones that are most likely going to be transitioning to using the internet instead anyway. And so that is kind of it's not, necessarily a concern for us, but it does relate to, considering that this lease is 30 years, a lot can change in that time, especially because the internet industry is growing so quickly, that we do want to have the ability to kind of, fluctuate with the market. And then, another kind of facet to this that, my boss had left for me was that, the way that Summit works is, all of, the strategy for the company obviously comes at a corporate level. So when it comes to product lines, when it comes to products and items that we sell in stores, things like that, that's all based off of a corporate structure, and then it's kind of filtered down so that all the stores are kind of meant to be the same and all the stores offer the same things. And so, that kind of leads into that flexibility thing again, where, if corporate decides, for example, like at this corporate planning meeting that my boss is at this week, if corporate decides that they're going to start offering new products that we don't currently sell in the store, we need to be able to actually follow with what corporate says. So it's kind of tricky because, we understand that we shouldn't offer something that your satellites are selling and then we put the satellites in the mall out of business. We don't want to do that, but we still have an obligation to our corporate strategy and to what corporate tells us to do to implement within our stores. So we need that kind of flexibility within the store as well. So that kind of goes more towards the use of the store, I guess.
Okay. So you need a better sense for how you can ensure that your product offerings are going to be aligned with the strategies for that are being handed to you guys by Summit as a whole. And you are concerned about what happens if, in the long term, internet purchases create a situation where you are left with a facility but no demographic to go to it, because at the end of the day, people are doing more and more purchases online.
Right. Yeah. So it's like the use of the store kind of related to the use kind of related to like the corporate stuff, and then as far as like the assignment and the subletting, that was more of a concern for us just for like competition, I would say, more than like our strategy.
Mm-hmm. And from our side, our concerns are a healthy competitive mix within the mall, and obviously making a space where Summit can serve as an anchor long term. Because without Summit as the anchor, we get host.
Right.
I believe that's a technical real estate development term, host. And I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't know it, that's okay. In your other deals that you've done, have you generally just been able to work with a company where they give you this freedom, or have you encountered other issues like this where in order to get financing for a mall, you were the anchor, and as such, there were concerns that you might leave? I don't know. It's not included in your background information or whatever. It's fine. I'm just curious.
I mean, so what I was provided, it just says that, corporate marketing, they insist on using that standard shopping center lease as the basis for all negotiations that we do. So that lease that we had given you that you would come back with. It says, it's been prepared and polished over the years by our corporate marketing department, and it's used in most of our lease transactions, and has proved its value many times over. So the way that I interpret that is that it ends up being a starting point for us. And, the fact that it says as a basis for negotiations, I'm assuming that, no other developers probably take it at face value, or very few do. So I think it's intended to kind of be worked over and things like that. So it's not
I was just wondering if if you had any other info from a real estate development standpoint about stuff like this. Okay. What's the typical term for your leases?
Let me see. I don't know what the typical is, but I was told that our lease has been set at 30 years, and that has been agreed upon from both sides. So I'm making all of our, all the decisions today are based on the fact that we have a 30-year lease, and that's not going to change, I don't think.
No, that makes sense. I know it's interesting. I know you guys are nervous about a shift away from bricks and mortar facilities, but the demographics for this area are such that if you're gonna move into the area, this is it. I mean, based on the research that we've had, you've got a population base that's supported by professional employees that are really with solid jobs. From everything that we've done, our research is such that this is a viable long-term community for a shopping mall. I don't have a crystal ball, but everything that we have just feels like that is the case.
I mean, we have kind of the same information, like from the research that we've done.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
why, Summit overall, like as a company, is really, really excited and wants to be in Northview. Like it's a natural next step. It makes complete sense. There's not a lot of competition in the area. It's a really good space for us. The demographics match what we sell perfectly. So, we totally agree with you there. It's just, there is that always lingering fear that of, the internet industry taking over everything. So and that's kind of, even though it's speculation and, I understand that, it's not like in the next 5 years that every mall ever is going to be completely obsolete and that people are going to stop shopping in stores. I know that that's not true, but it's something that just Summit as a whole just is, the media has been speculating and they're just concerned about, for the long term, especially since this lease is 30 years. The short term, obviously that's, it's not a concern, but it's more like, past like, the 15, 20-year mark, they want to be able to.
And at the end of the day, our job is to hammer out something that is going to allay the fears of your boss and my boss.
Right.
So that's fair as well. All right. So with that said, did you have any proposals or anything that you want to talk about as a way to move forward? Obviously we gave a counter proposal, and that's not exactly what you guys need. Did you have any ideas on how you would like to see it amended?
I mean, I think a lot of it is we're gonna start in one spot and then we're gonna need to bounce back and forth, because there's really the use, the subletting, and the assignment. Those are the three things that we kind of wanted to get details on. So, I guess maybe to start, we can kind of start with the use of the space.
Well, and yes, and I know one of the things we've talked about is coming back to this on Tuesday night, so I don't know if you want to try and hammer it all out now or get some proposals put forward and come back. So whichever obviously whichever I think works out, we might decide that we can hammer it all out and then find we need some time off. So I'm not sure how you want to approach it, but yeah. So
I mean, I'm willing to try and get this whole thing done today. If we don't need to meet on Tuesday, we don't have to. So if you
all right, sounds good.
Okay.
I've got the time to hammer it out if we can.
Okay, great. So I kind of figured we would kind of take this one by one, we wouldn't just do a whole proposal and then figure out what we like and don't like. I figured we kind of take it by each chunk of Article 22.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yep, that's fine.
So
that makes sense. I just wasn't sure if you had a counter proposal that you had wanted to fly by me first.
I hadn't really come up with a specific all-encompassing proposal. Because I knew if I did that it obviously wouldn't get accepted and we'd have to negotiate it anyway. So I didn't bother going through. So but I think really, for the use of the space, as I had mentioned, our strategy comes from the corporate level, and and I recognize. So, I guess maybe before I start, have you done any of the lease agreements for the satellite stores yet, or is it kind of you're getting us in there first, and then after that you kind of work around us?
They've been simultaneous.
Okay.
So we've started actually pulling in and signing satellite tenants as well.
Now, were you pulling them in, explaining to them that you were working with us, or did you just or did you not discuss the anchor store that was being put in, or?
We have. Let me confirm that I don't provide you with any misinformation. According to my notes, we have had simultaneous negotiations going on with strong creditworthy satellite tenants, and that is all that I know that we have told them and disclosed.
Okay.
To my knowledge, nothing in here says that we have specifically told them that we are negotiating with you as an anchor.
Okay. And are you working with any other potential anchor stores, or is it just us and we're just kind of ironing out the details?
At the end of the day, if everything goes to heck in the handbasket, my information is that we can take run at another anchor store. But as of right now, our preference is for us to work with you guys.
Okay.
And my success point is hammering out an agreement with you guys.
Okay, just checking. Just have to make, because we want to, we want to be in Northview, so we're on the same page. It's not like, we're looking at other potential malls, I guess, outside of where we are now. Okay. So really, I think for the use of the space, ideally, I think, our maximum plausible position, I guess, for us, like ideally what we would want is that we would be able to pretty much use the space as we see fit. And that's just, that's just our store, that's just Summit, and that's not including, subletting space or things like that. That's separate. So for example, like say after this, corporate planning meeting this week, my boss comes back and says, corporate says we're selling, I don't know, like any kind of product line that we don't already sell. Pretty much what we would like to do is, we understand that, you have satellite stores that might end up conflicting with those. But, we'd pretty much just kind of like to be able to, when corporate says to us, add this product line or add this new department to your store in Northview, that we can actually do that without necessarily having to go through agreements or proposing it to you and then you saying, well, we already have a satellite store that sells that. We don't want to create competition, so you can't do it. And then we have to go back to corporate and say, well, sorry, we can't do it in this one store because of a tiny satellite, so.
Yep, I understand. And to understand the concerns that we're balancing, we've already heard some noise from individuals saying that they are concerned about competing uses. So yeah, we're hearing some noise from some of the satellites that we've been talking to about competition. So this, not to say that maximal that your MPP is out of scope, but it is something that is not that's not an easy win-win here. Right. So we're going to have to think about that.
Right.
Okay. Because ultimately, our MPP is that we can put the kibosh on that, so that you're not going to be running Millie shoes out of business because you start selling shoes. And I'm not even at the end of the day, I'm not sure that is the case, but I want to be respectful of the other tenants, and I don't want anybody to get run out of the mall. And it's an issue for us as well, because a bunch of empty stores takes the mall down and actually doesn't serve you guys either.
Right.
It's good to know. Let's think about. We can table that. Your maximum plausible position for space is use it as you see fit. Well, actually, let me think about it. I'm just going to talk this through. You want to use it as you see fit. At the end of the day, the stores themselves need to be able to are looking for protection against from being run out of it, from having somebody come in and just sell anything they want. All right. I'm going to say, let me think about that for a little while.
Okay.
And we both can. All right. Next, sublet.
Yes. So, let me see. So that, I think the subletting really, for us is more of just, I think it's more of a kind of a safety net in terms of, responding to the market, and that, we don't, we don't necessarily want to be tied to this big space, for 30 years where, either some of that space or all of that space could be attributed to somebody else who could obviously make the mall, would maybe potentially fit the mall better than we would down the line. So, I mean, as far as like the subletting, I don't have a lot of information provided to me as to exactly what the subletting, like what a potential use for the subletting would be.
So let's. So I feel like there were two things that you said that I found interesting, if I can.
Sure.
You do not want to be tied to a location where you feel your store may not serve the mall long term, or the mall might not serve you long term either. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. It was more as just like, we didn't want to feel trapped, but then at the same time, we didn't want you guys to feel like you were stuck with us either at any point.
And I'm not. One of the things our concern is we want an anchor. We need. Right now, it just you guys are a logical option. We're excited about doing business with you, but obviously, you being there, if in a situation where it's not working, doesn't work for either of us. And so, one of the things we can think about. I'm just going to. Throw it out there as an idea is maybe some sort of a mutual option on subletting, so that if it doesn't work, we can and have a situation where there is a way for you to get out, but you work with us to ensure that the replacement tenant serves the anchor role so that it doesn't take them all down with us.
Right. Yeah. I was kind of thinking the same thing, like in terms of, maybe the assignment where it's like if we were to completely give, the space over to a new store rather than just kind of leaving you out to dry. Or, just leaving you hanging with an empty space, we can help you find, stores that have, a similar clientele. They have, the same, kind of credit rating that we do. They have the same, kind of financial prospects that we do. I think that's probably something that we would be willing to do.
And subletting also speaks a lot to your ability to bring in other individuals to be able to use your space, correct?
Right.
The space, correct?
Right.
And to be honest, I almost feel like I want you guys to have the opportunity, barring doing something insane, to be able to have as robust a commercial marketplace as we can, as you can. In some ways, I feel like your reputation is such that you guys do a great job. I want to help you do a great job, and if that means having a Fruity-Doop cosmetic counter in your store, because it's a signature line that draws people in.
Right.
I want to give you guys the ability to do that.
Right.
My wife loves Fruity-Doop mascara, so.
Yeah.
And so obviously, I don't want you selling Papa John's pizza out of the space either. So I think these two areas. On an assignment, I like the idea of a mutual option maybe, and then subletting. I don't want to. To be honest, I don't think this works if we're telling you what to sell in your store per se.
Right.
But it doesn't work if 25 years from now you're selling tires out of the space either per se.
Right.
So I want. How do I give you guys?
I mean, it's like one of the things I think for subletting.
You guys are doing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
no, go ahead.
Well, for the subletting, I think at least from the understanding that I have, and I hope I have the same vision as Summit Corporate does, but to me, like, I saw the subletting more as like, yeah, that the fruit-de-dupe, cosmetics counter, not, we're just going to chop the space that we have in half, throw a wall up, and then make the other half of a Papa John's. Like, I see, if we were to do subletting, it would be more of, it would kind of align with the use of this, our use of the space, where, there wouldn't be like separate entrances, and we wouldn't be, putting up walls and making the big anchor store space 2 smaller stores and things like that. I saw the subletting more as we're just incorporating different products and like different departments into our existing store, and that either comes from what corporate tells us to do for their strategy for, doing business, but the subletting would always align with Summit stores' look and feel, with what they sell and things like that. Does that make sense?
It does. So one of the things we can start thinking about maybe then is to allow, we can, obviously, so we're aligned in that we do not want the store chopped up. And that doesn't serve Summit.
Right.
No. And it doesn't serve Wright. So that's fine. No store chop up. You guys want to be able to sell have a fruit-de-dupe counter, and so I don't want to say that you can't make structural changes to the store and that you might want to move a counter around or something like that. So maybe it has to be something like subletting doesn't result in a situation where the continuous nature of the store is broken up. Does that make sense? So like it needs to be that the store can still stay open and people can still come in and use and shop while the whatever changes are being made because of a subletting being added in are happening. Is that what you meant? Yeah, is what I'm thinking. If you're going to, so long as you're not going to chop the store in half and cut down your footprint and then sublet the other half out to Target, I'm okay with it. Generally, there's going to be some use stuff associated with who you sublet to that we have to think about as well.
Right.
But clearly, we both want a large space in which Summit can be Summit.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. So I think we're going to, let's think about that. We'll figure out wording. But I'm okay. I want to, we both win if Summit is allowed to be Summit. If Summit is allowed to sell the products for which it's become known for, and as such, is allowed to thrive.
Yeah.
All right.
So many personnel.
All right, so I think that's not bad. I think we've got some common ground there. What about assignments?
So
at the end of the day, unless you guys go into Chapter 11 and start hawking, I don't know, cheap sunglasses.
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
I think 3,000 square feet of sunglasses would suck. But we want this to be a long-term prosperous relationship. We chose you guys because we think you're not going to be the next Kmart, or I guess even Sears, which has turned into Kmart, which I think is every developer's worst fear. A big anchor that's kind of speaks to one demographic, and then the better part of the way through the lease completely changed itself.
Right.
So, or significantly does. So, then you don't want to be in a space where that's not going to be viable for you long term. I want you guys there, to be honest. I mean, we can talk about a mutual option, but I want Summit in this store. I believe, I don't know. I think you guys are a good fit.
I mean,
there's nothing. Yeah, go ahead. I'm just rambling.
Well, no, but I'm looking at I'm looking at the common information that we both have, and it says, Summit may need to close its store in 10 years because the local economy has turned bad. We don't want that to happen, but that is a very real concern that Summit has, I guess. And granted, in the information that I was provided, there was no timeline on this fear on the internet taking over the world. I wasn't being, my boss didn't leave me anything saying, we want an out in 10 years because we think that that's when the market's going to turn and everything's going to crash and burn. And, I had no timelines in here, but, maybe for that assignment, we want to be there too. So maybe we kind of put a timeline on it where, we agree that, Summit is going to be there for, I don't know what kind of timeline you want, but,
Yeah. The thing is, if the economy goes to hell in the handbasket, we're all hosts anyways, right?
Right. So
if the whole mall is, we are, yes, we are tied to each other to some extent, and I'm not. We can talk about that, but at the end of the day, as we go, I want us to succeed and fail together, but I am. I want us to succeed together, but there are certain things that we're not going to be able to mitigate around. And those are the instances where I'm going to be protective. I want you guys in there, because even if, and I firmly believe this, even if the mall, everything goes to hell in a handbasket, where our best opportunities together are going to be working as a group to find a way through tough times to keep people flowing into our stores, not to have things start going under. So I don't know how we get there, but at the end of the day, I firmly believe our best option is to work together on this. And to create a situation where you guys are linked in for an extended period of time, at the very least. Build it and create a situation where you're linked in, and there becomes if it becomes necessitated in some way, then we'll set up a mutual option.
Okay.
And we can put a timeline on that.
Okay.
But I would really like for us to find a way to have it be something that where you guys stay, because like you said, I know you're concerned that if the economy goes to crap, you don't want to be tied there, but I don't. It's possible the location goes down, but I don't think it will.
Right.
And even if it, I'm rambling here again, so I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So let's
Well, and just kind of another point, maybe I don't know if what I'm about to say is countering what you just said or going along with it, but something else that
we can figure that out.
Well, something else that's I don't know if it was in both of the information that we had or it was with me. Apparently, Summit is kind of it's like a Neiman Marcus type store where the customers are a little more high end than normal. I think we're a half a step above Macy's type thing. So I think it's the assignment thing, as much as it looks to us we want to have a way out in case things go bad. I also want to kind of present it to you as a way of, if for some reason the economy stays shaky and people don't buy things at Neiman Marcus and they want instead of Summit, then instead of Summit and Neiman Marcus and Lord & Taylor, they're doing Sears and JCPenney and Target. We also want to have that opportunity for you guys if for some reason we don't match your customers anymore, that you're not stuck with a high-end department store that your customers can't afford, And
if that's the case, which just speaks, and you're echoing what I was saying. not echoing what I was saying. By the way, I found it very interesting. We're talking about malls, and for a short period of time, the Spanish banking advertisement was replaced by a J.C. Penney ad, which is a little creepy.
Mine wasn't. I still have Wells Fargo, so I don't know what's going on.
They're talking about, well, Wells Fargo is back, but for like a split second, there was a J.C. Penney ad. And if like OVOO is like, got now serving ads based on what we're talking about, that's creepy. And I think everything that we're saying so far, we're kind of drawing it out, but when at the end of the day, it may very well be that, and it feels like a mutual option is the best path forward for both of us. And let's think about a time frame for when that can kick in as well. And potentially, and if you're concerned about having it occur after a time frame, we can think about triggers as well that would cause it to kick in earlier if you would prefer.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds like the best option for both of us is a mutual option.
Yeah.
All right. Can we go back to subletting?
Yeah.
How do we get the verbiage in place where we're able to let Summit be Summit, and you can be able to sublet it to vendors as needed without us worrying about you chopping up the store. So in my head, and let me know if I'm wrong, this is going from conceptual idea to conceptual to verbiage. I think we need to get to conceptual on use. We've got to conceptual on assignment. We just need to get verbiage. And I think subletting, we've got conceptual down, and I think we can work on verbiage because that's all we're doing. I think conceptually we're aligned there. It's just a matter of getting the verbiage down that will protect us both in the ways that we need to be protected.
Right.
So I think we're probably closest there. Let's see if we can find a way in which we can figure out how we can let Summit be Summit, and I don't have to worry about a new commercial team coming in and partnering with Kmart.
Right.
And splitting the store in half into a dual concept store in which they're selling auto care and Fruity-Doo makeup.
So, I mean, as far as the subletting goes, we can agree to kind of have, that we're not going to chop the store in half. We're not going to break it up into 6 smaller stores.
Yep. How do we verb it? How do we just?
We can say that any subletting that would be done, like there would be no separate entrances, and that the subletters would be operating underneath, like
no different or additional entrances.
Right.
Because there may be more than one entrance, as depending on how it's actually set up right now. So it's not so much separate entrances. I haven't taken a look at the blueprints, but as it is, there may be multiple entrances to.
Right. Yeah.
The visits in the anchor.
I mean, it's like pretty much like I guess we would just I'm trying to imagine how Macy's has the Clinique counter, where it's like I don't know how to explain it, but pretty much it would be like that, where the look and feel of whatever subletters we have would match that of Summit. So and things like that.
And for the record, Clinique was what I was thinking of. That's what was like the picture in my head when I said the Fruity-Doo counter.
Yeah, because then in that case, I also wear Fruity-Doo mascara that's like $36 a tube. So.
I don't think I don't buy anything in a tube. I buy caulk in a tube. I use it on the tub, but it only costs like $2 or $3 for a tube. Maybe you should. So that means either you could spend less money on your mascara and use caulk instead.
I definitely could.
Or mascara, because it's so much more expensive, is better, and I should be sealing the tub with mascara potentially.
I mean, it comes in waterproof, so. It's an opportunity
there we
for
go.
you.
Let's give it a shot. So the architectural integrity. Summit Stores has the freedom to to sublet as needed, so long as the architectural integrity of the store as it was envisioned by the developer is maintained. Layout can be altered to Summit's needs. Architectural changes with architectural changes requiring approval from Wright. So if you want to build a wall, I'm not even sure I'm against you building a wall. I mean, on some level, I want to trust Summit to have a sense for how they want to do it. Because if you decide that the best way to self-group to do makeup isn't a counter, but you want to do with a boutique concept store, I'm not against that either.
I mean, maybe.
And I don't want to put something in there that stupidly prevents you from being able to do that.
I mean, I think if you guys are, okay with us subletting and, making slight changes, whether it be adding counters or adding a floating wall just to have the appearance of a separate space without actually chopping a chunk of the store off. I mean, I think if that's the case, then maybe, bringing those changes to your team before we actually, actually implement those things is something that's viable, because then, because then we, that way you're not completely out of the loop. And so when, you understand what's happening, but then, so that's the thing, because then it's like, I don't want, and then maybe that can be something that we also work with our subletters and say to them that, we have this agreement with Wright Development that, if we're going to have you in here, we can't be making crazy architectural changes, and that you need to keep with the look and feel of Summit, and that it needs to be one cohesive store. And then that way.
But if Summit wants, so in downtown Manhattan, if you go to the Manhattan Mall, JCPenney has it's spread out across a ton of floors. It's a pain in the ass. But they've decided there are times when you're walking into it where you feel like you're walking into a boutique that's kind of set up around a specific brand that JCPenney is.
Right.
Hawking is the word that's coming to mind. And so they've created these little concept areas. And if you guys want to do that, that's fine. Okay. I mean, if it's pursuant, I want to make sure you're not doing something that's wackadoo crazy. But I want to give you the freedom to do that. So I don't want to say that you can't do that. So subletting, I want to say, is going to be all right.
I mean, we could. I don't know how. Maybe we word it as in subletting is, allowed as long as the subletting that is done maintains, as you said, maintains the architectural integrity of the existing framework. There's no additional separate entrances, and that the subletters that are being added, they have alignment with Summit's corporate strategy.
Sure. I'm okay with that. Architectural integrity. So architectural integrity is the big one. So I can use Marcus.
And then maybe.
I'm thinking. I haven't.
No, that's okay.
Architectural integrity. Might have separate entrances, anyways. Summit has the freedom to make sublet, so long as architectural changes are any architectural changes which substantively change the continuous nature of the space are approved by the landlord first.
So like I can understand that.
So
So if the changes,
the space is one. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, so like if the changes can be made while still having the store open and customers in it and not necessarily, having a big impact on the mall and the traffic, obviously if, we have to close a small section of the store and move whatever product is there to another part of the store on, kind of like temporary racks, but people can still come in and shop, and it's not going to have a giant effect on sales and, people coming into the mall. Maybe you guys are okay with that. But then if we do have, any kind of changes to the store that do require either us closing or they're anticipated to have significant impact on sales, that needs to be approved by you first. Was that kind of where you were going?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I understand too, like, I understand that for you, like, you get, part of the money that you receive from us also has to do with our sales. And so obviously we don't want to do big construction that cuts our sales, and then that in turn, cuts your income as well.
But at the same time, I don't want to hamstring you so that if a giant concept store that's going to result in a good situation long term, I don't want to say no. So I don't want to say that it doesn't happen. It's just we need to talk about that first.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So yeah. I'm going to move this over here so I'm actually looking at you. So subletting again. All right. So, sorry, I've been typing.
No, it's okay.
It's going to be riveting for Dr. Starner to be looking at that section where we sat there silently for a minute and a half while I typed.
It was that
and
ask
didn't do a particularly good job of telling you I was typing, leaving you with the situation. Yes, that was strategy. That's what I was doing. Get that lovely view of the side of my head. All right. So subletting here. It becomes someone is given the freedom to sublet as is Summit is given the freedom to sublet in a manner that is consistent with with its corporate strategy, vision, and chain/brand.
Character, we'll call it.
Right?
Yeah.
Character?
Yeah, that's what it says in the case. There was a thing, it says,
Character.
yeah, it says Summit will be allowed to sublet, but the character of the use must be maintained. So like the subtenants operate as departments within a department store rather than independent operators with separate entrances to their spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. The continuous nature of the facility, of the space,
Yeah.
will not be altered. Energy, chain character, comma, but the space will remain for all practical purposes one store. I think. All right. The continuous nature of the space will not be altered without prior approval from Wright Development. All right. All right. Okay. Make sense?
Yep. And then so.
All right, one down.
Well, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Can you read that whole thing to me before we move on? I just
All
want to
right,
make sure it's all covered.
Yep. So what I have is Summit is given the freedom to sublet in a manner that's consistent with its corporate strategy, vision, and chain/character. But the space will remain for all practical purposes one store. The continuous nature of the space will not be altered without prior approval from Wright Development.
Okay.
And we're probably going to have to wordsmith all of this stuff.
That's okay.
So
yeah, we're going to have to go back
if you have changes.
Yeah.
There could be a gajillion changes to this, but I think conceptually that's verbiage that works for both of us.
Yep.
Okay.
So then do we want to kind of lend that into the use, considering that, the companies that we sublet it to will have to do with the use of the space?
The 800-pound gorilla in the room? All right, let's tackle the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah. So.
All right, so I need a good mix. I need to not drive Billy Joe's Shoe Emporium out of business.
Right.
And you need to not be able to go to saying to corporate, I can't do this.
So I'm thinking this is kind of when maybe timelines come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so like right now it says, I have information that the typical length of a lease for a satellite is 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes. Are you Caitlin Goodwin, you are not proposing that we alter length, because that is specifically I've been told by my boss that is not cool.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not asking to change leases, satellite
Okay.
leases. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to make sure that that's true, because what I was kind of the idea that I was kind of playing with is that if we can.
You have no information different from what I have.
Well,
on
I
that.
don't know. I don't know if your confidential information said that it's not actually 10 and some leases are 5.
No, and I'm telling you, you have no information that I do not have on that. You're good.
Okay. So, because what I was thinking then was, I know that your satellites are in there for 10 years, and granted, I'm in there for 30, from the information that I have, it seems like there is a corporate planning meeting for Summit every year. It's an annual thing, but I'm not sure how often a significant change in our product offering happens. So I don't know if there's, I'll be honest with you, right now, they're floating around with an idea of adding, they're considering adding, a whole kind of new, whole new department to the business. They haven't, said yes or no yet, and I'm assuming that's what's being discussed at this annual meeting. The only problem is that, I don't know how often these changes are being made. I don't know if every year they're going to add a new department to the store, or if, they do this once every 5 years, or if they never, this is a whole new thing that they're doing. And so it's, I understand that your satellites are in there for 10 years. And so if we were to put something in halfway through their, if we were to start selling CDs and your CD satellite store still has 5 years left, we don't want to cut them at the knees, but at the same time, we still need to be able to implement the things that corporate tells us to implement.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you have something that's kind of amazing, like a next big thing sort of thing, that's going to drive your sales, it doesn't make sense for me to say, keep you from doing that to protect a 10-year satellite guy, and I feel like a horrible person from saying that. But again, this gets back to me wanting to allow Summit to be Summit, because I want to preserve that ecosystem, but at the same time, what makes the Anchor Store great is that they offer these things that people come to the mall for.
Right.
And so I'm not sure that it doesn't, again, to the end that I was saying, it doesn't serve us both to actually really have to be too restrictive. If you want to do a new boutique concept in there that is directly conflicts, I'm not crazy about saying no if it's going to drive a ton of sales, and certainly if it's going to drive people to a competitive mall that does offer a similar service, right? Mm-hmm. So let me think about that. So you guys get a list of new products every year after these corporate meetings, right?
I don't know if it's every year,
And initiatives?
but yeah, it's pretty much what happens is, here, let me tell you what, so it says, It says severe restrictions in use might make it impossible to add this merchandise to a Northview Mall store, even if our new strategy would require the addition, and this would not be good. That's what my boss told me. So,
reread that one more time.
it says severe restrictions in use might make it impossible to add this new merchandise that they're considering to the Northview Mall store, even if our new strategy would require the addition. This would not be good.
Okay.
That was left to me in a memo from my boss. So, that's really the biggest concern that we have. It's not that we want to run the satellites out of business. Obviously, we don't, because what's the fun in being an anchor store if there isn't a whole other mall running around it?
The dead mall doesn't serve you guys at all well either. So what do you guys consider severe restrictions?
See, I don't know. It doesn't really. They don't really highlight what severe. I guess really severe restrictions would be that, we come to that you require that we, get approval from you before we.
So your maximum plausible position, you get to sell what you want, right? No matter what.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can defend it by saying, hey, listen, we are the anchor store, damn it, and our ability to serve in that role relies on our ability to create a product offering that is consistent with our chain and what we sell across across the country. My maximum plausible position is that I approve of what you sell. So that there are no conflicts, because at the end of the day, a dead mall, to your point, that serves you no good. If you're the anchor for a bunch of empty stores, it's a little bit redonkulous. So let's go ahead and do this. Anchors satellite tenants have a 10-year contract. What if we did something along the lines of, I wish I knew how frequently you were going to have you had these meetings.
I know. Well, I know we have the meetings every year, but I don't know how often these meetings end with, okay, you're going to completely add a new department to the store and you have to add it now. And granted, and I also don't know if, if they do take this new product line that they want to add, this new department, I don't know if they're going to say that, it needs to be in this new store, or if it can wait 3 to 5 years before it gets implemented, or if they're going to do it, across every single Summit store in the country, or if they're going to start with some Summit stores, test it out, see how it does, and then maybe, I don't have any of that information. And so I think that's why they're kind of asking for that maximum flexibility, is because I don't, if they said, we come up with this big new change every 5 years, then I'd be more than happy to say, okay, well, why don't it, we have a meeting every 5 years about the use, but I don't know. So that's why they're kind of looking for.
So you don't want to be severely restricted, but we're not, between the two of us, it's not real clear about what restrictions would be considered severe.
Right.
We can.
I mean, obviously, the changes that, as far as the use goes, the only changes that we would make to the use of the store would only come from what corporate tells us to do. So it's not like we would go rogue against corporate and decide to start selling things that other Summit stores don't sell. So that almost, I don't know if that, our change will be limited to what corporate tells us to do, but I know that's still not quite enough for you.
All right. So there's a lot of this that speaks back to sublet. So what we can agree on is this use. I'm assuming. Sorry. There we go. I just said sorry. I don't know who I was talking to. I was apologizing to myself because I was on the wrong page and I just completely deleted the paragraph. So I'm sorry. That's all right. No, sorry, Dave. It's okay, Dave. Don't worry about it today. I hope I'm not graded solely on the videos as a whole. Because I apologize now, Dr. Starner, for the running commentary. We can both agree on is that we've created a space that's consistent with the character of your store, and no use should conflict with the character. Should be in any way, shape, or form different from the character of Summit's. Be a great divergence from Summit Store's character or the character of the mall. Correct?
Correct.
Really choppy wording, but conceptually, I think we're there.
Yeah.
So.
Is that pretty much everything we do is going to align with what our corporate strategy is, and it matches them all.
Diverge greatly. No use should sue. No, we don't want to sue. We want to use. No use should diverge greatly from the character of the summit summit stores or the mall as a whole. So we can agree on that. Okay. Come on.
Can you hear the background noise on my side, by the way? Can you hear? Okay, I didn't know. I think my brother is watching Game of Thrones, so I apologize. Because I realized I hear sword fighting and people and medieval people yelling, and and my brother is yelling along with it. So
clear. Just no, that's what I heard. What appeared to be some mammal giving birth was what it sounded like.
Nope, just my brother yelling at Game of Thrones. So.
I want to tell you that you can't create a use that conflicts with anything you want, and I want to have the flexibility to bring on tenants who are creditworthy. You want to be able to use it as you want. To roll out new brands, those new brands may conflict directly with a tenant. All right.
This one's tricky because I'm
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it helps, but obviously, like in terms of use, like for example, like when corporate comes to us and says that we need to, start offering something new, obviously we can, as soon as that is like a confirmed, thing, and it's a confirmed action that needs to be taken, we can obviously let you know. And that way, like especially like right now, like I have a feeling that, when my boss comes back from this meeting, I could very well have a new department that's being added to the store, and if it becomes a definitive thing, and after this annual meeting they say yes, we're adding this new product line, we can alert you to that change immediately, so that as you're still working on these satellites, you can kind of.
All right, so let's. Use and sublet. You want, not all my satellites are created. You want to be, you want to use it as you want, but we both want to make sure that the character of the mall and store are maintained. I don't know if this would work. So this is floating out an idea, and I'm going to say right now that this is not a this is just spitballing. What if we went ahead and said, gave you a broader range for use, and I think we've tried to give you a really broad use in subletting. What would you be able to give me on the assignment? Could I, if we give a good bit to what you guys need on use and subletting, can we get a lot back on assignment as you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like a trade-off seems fair for that.
Okay.
I think it's more of a matter of what kind of trade-off do you want. So we're saying if, kind of that broad use of subletting, you also let us kind of flow into use where, as long as it lines up with our corporate strategy and we, communicate these changes with you as soon as they come in, you'll kind of let us do it.
Aligns with corporate strategy, maintains the character of the mall, and the other thing I'd like to be able to do is kind of get a sense for what you guys are going to be doing, so that we can also be able to bring in tenants that are going to round the mall out appropriately. Like if you have some stuff, if you're going to be rolling, especially early on, if you're going to be rolling out new things, I want to be able to be prepared. But without actual restrictions on the specifics of it. We'll give you, if we were to give you the freedom to do that, what's the best you could do with me on the assignment side to make sure that I'm warm and comfy, that I have a solid anchor in there for perpetuity.
I mean,
30
I think
years, whatever.
For that trade-off, I mean, if you said that kind of mutual option, if you kind of want to like set a timeline, I think, from my side, maybe a fair trade-off was that we have to stay in the space for a certain period of time before that mutual, that mutual option comes into play, whether we make it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25. I mean, by 25, I think it's, by then. So I would say, we stay in the, we have to stay in the space for 15 to 20 years, anywhere. I'm kind of bracketing it in there if you want to broaden that by all means. But, where we're locked in for that period of time. And then at the end of that, we can have a discussion whether if you want us out, we can leave, or if, we want out, we can help make sure that it's being filled with a store that kind of matches our style and that helps maintain the character of the mall.
Yeah.
So like that if we are to assign our lease to somebody else, that, for you, you have to approve of who we're leasing it to. So you have, you get to kind of almost not pick, but, you can require that, like it said in the case, that they have a similar credit rating, operating history, da, 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 da. So.
Ultimately, we would need to sign off. No assigning for anything before, I want to say 20 years.
Okay.
And we have final sign off on assigning. Something along those lines. And can we not put that in stone? That's just a general position.
Yeah. But I think that's a good start.
No assignment less than 20 years. Wright has final say on approving assignment.
Right. And then, so maybe another, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself because it was like the next bullet down on the case. So at that time, do you also want the opportunity to take the space back?
So I was thinking about that.
Or I guess
sure.
it's not necessarily that you would take the space back, because if at 20 years, we're still happy being there.
The next bullet, the next bullet says, Wright will be given the right to take back the rented space, subject perhaps to compensate Summit rather than accept the assignee presented.
Right. So that's not saying necessarily. I mean, 20 years from now.
So that's not saying that we're going to take. Yeah.
It's just saying that if we come up, at 20 years, if we come up with a new.
If someone says I want out, I'm not forced to accept the new person.
Right.
I can instead just say no and let you walk away. And then I'm not sure I want that. I would rather, my preference is for me to say that we have final say on approving assignment. I'm not crazy about you guys walking away, because a walk away doesn't do much for my mall as a whole. I don't want to take the space back per se. I think Wright is in a stronger position, and I think so is Summit, is if it gets to the point where the relationship becomes toxic from a, not a personal standpoint, but from a business standpoint, that the two can't coexist, this forces us to work together. Versus me if I just say we have the right to take this, to take that space back, if I don't approve of the assignee, that just means you can whip up some mom and pop place and say that they're going to pay the rent, and I don't approve it. Then you're like, well, I guess you have to take the space back, right?
Right,
and that might not be the case, but that's what I don't want. And so I think anything that forces us, in the event that the relationship does become toxic, to work together to find a suitable replacement is going to be best for both parties long term.
Okay. So then, but I guess what happens is, if we find an assignee, or we find we find a new store that we think is a good fit, and then we bring it to you, and you don't like them, then for Summit, that almost makes us feel like then we're stuck in the space.
You are, just like the tenants are stuck in the space who are going to be having competing uses, right?
Right. Okay. That's fair.
This is why it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah. Okay. I see it. I gotcha. So we have to. Okay.
So I know that this isn't your best outcome,
right.
But in order for me to to feel comfortable about letting you guys have broad range of use and subletting, I have to be comfortable that I'm going to have a solid anchor store in there for a long time that I can build the mall around, so that if I lose a smaller tenant, there are going to be other tenants who are itching to take their place ultimately. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I got greedy for a second. Okay. I'm sorry. I lost track.
No, it's all right. You are doing your job, and you're doing a darn good job of that job.
I'm trying. But no, that's fair. Okay. So for the assignment we have, Summit has to stay in the space for 20 years, and then after that, we have the option if after 20 years, if we aren't, still hunky-dory, loving every second of being in Northview or Northview. Yeah. If we're still not, if for some reason we're not happy with it after 20 years, if we find an assignee, we can, if you want to set parameters for the new tenant where they have to have, I don't know if they have to have a similar.
So what we'll do is we'll say that assignment may take place provided that everything is consistent with character. Everything we've talked about with respect to subletting and use, those are going to apply to assignment as well. There's probably going to be some base other stuff like credit checks, making sure that they're able to pay the base rent, congruent sales, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that they're bringing roughly around the same amount of dollars as you guys. But if you're able to find something like that, yes, but we get a final approval. And in exchange, you guys are going to get a broad range. So basically, for subletting and use, you'll be given the opportunity to sublet and use the facility in a manner congruent with the character style of the mall as a whole, as well as corporate initiatives that are being rolled out. And yes.
Cool. I like the sound of all of that.
All right. Did you just pants me, Caitlin Goodwin? I think you pantsed me, but that's all right.
No, I didn't. I swear.
I know. At least I am very confident that you did not try to pants me.
I didn't.
But if I think this is fair because ultimately, from my standpoint, I want to be fair to my satellite tenants, but the best way I can be fair to my satellite tenants is for you guys to thrive. And to have a really solid anchor store there. They're probably going to be concerned about competition, but the sooner we get this signed, the sooner satellite stores can get a sense for who's going to be in there and make a decision about who is and is not going to do that. And ultimately, the biggest thing I can do for my satellite stores is make sure that I have a solid anchor tenant in there for a long period of time. And so I think everybody wins if we give you the freedom you need on the use and subletting side to really thrive and serve as a anchor tenant and make a big splash and generate a nice big footprint in the region and continue to draw people in and create a vibrant commerce environment, and then we're able to sleep well at night knowing that you're going to be able to continue to thrive within this facility.
Right. And I guess
maybe I think that's the fair way.
And something, I mean, I can always throw it in to the agreement that we have, but just for the use and subletting, something that I want to throw in from Summit side is that, even though we don't necessarily need your approval to do things, we will alert you of any changes that we make. So the minute that corporate says you need to implement this in your store, we will let you know. I'm willing to kind of have that open line of communication just so you guys are aware of obviously with the subletting, if there was any kind of architectural changes, we would bring those to you, obviously, and then,
Yeah.
And
that's what I was speaking to earlier. I said if you guys can let us know early about what new initiatives you are going to be rolling out, that's great. Because then it allows us to plan what we're doing around what we know you guys are doing. And at the same time, we won't make sure, we're not doing anything that competes with you guys as well.
Right, yeah.
Ultimately, we want to create a complementary commercial environment.
Right.
So, yes, that's one thing. I don't need approval, but knowing about it ahead of time, when you guys know about it, would be beneficial.
Right.
And so we'll have to think about how that is as far as verbiage, because this is a document. So maybe something like within 30 days of notification from your corporate environment that you're going to be about rolling out new initiatives. In that 30 days prior, after, or a window prior so that we have a certain amount of time, lead time to kind of prepare well. Can I think about that, whether I want and build something in, whether I want 30 days after or an open window? Because that's something I do want to build, and we've talked about this. Just a matter of letting us know how far in advance we want it, and we need you guys to let us know ahead of time about stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So build in lead time windows. Okay. I'm comfortable with this. All right. Next steps are writing. Do you want me to write up the first draft, or do you want to, since we submitted the last proposal? Or just want to?
If you want to,
I don't mind writing it.
No, I don't either. If you want to send me the version that you've kind of like come up with today, since you did all that writing during right now, I can. If you send that to me, I can finagle it and add detail, and then just send it back to you, and we can kind of back and forth it. So.
And I've got notes here. What I'm going to do is alter notes into a rough draft.
Yeah.
And then you can make changes.
Yeah, because I have notes, but I don't think they were. Yeah, because the notes that I have, I don't think were as like nicely worded as what you wrote down. So.
Oh, God help us all if I'm the one doing the nice wording.
Well, I knew you were typing, so I got kind of lazy and just like wrote down basic notes because I knew you were doing it all.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Are you ready for your move?
I haven't even started packing
You're
yet.
moving in like 7 days.
I know.
Oh, my God.
I know.
You are so... I would be freaking out right now.
I am. I'm freaking out. It's really terrifying. My last day of work was Friday. So, like, I'm now...
Well, that's not so bad. You can, like...
Well, I gave myself, like, a week off.
You can, like, just crush it for a week. Yeah.
But...
Still, I would be, like... Are you driving? Do you have movers, or are you just driving everything out yourself?
No, my boyfriend's flying here on Friday. So he's flying in Friday afternoon, and then he and I are waking up really early on Saturday and driving my car with all of my belongings to Wisconsin. Spending Saturday night in Ohio. So.
Where in Ohio, do you know?
Montpelier. Montpelier?
Oh.
I don't know. It's outside of South Bend, Michigan.
Okay.
I think.
So that's up by Toledo.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 fun facts. First fun fact, my wife is from Ohio. She's from Lima. My wife is from Lima, Ohio. One of the groomsmen in my wedding was married to a woman from Peru who was from Lima, which was kind of weird. Her family now lives in Sandusky, which is close to Toledo. Do you know where the phrase Holy Toledo came from?
No. Well, I mean, I'm guessing Toledo, but...
So when the guy from the mafiosos from Detroit and the mafiosos from, like, Cleveland would get together for a meet, they'd meet in Toledo. Nothing ever happened in Toledo. It was considered, like, off limits. It was Holy Toledo. So that's where that kind of came from.
Learn something new every day.
At least that's what I've been told by my Ohio kinsman.
There you go. I'll believe it. I'll take your word for it.
I will write this stuff up, and I'll send something off to you probably by later this evening, if that's okay.
That works.
Cool.
Cool beans. All right.
I'll talk to you later.
I will see if this recording, if you don't have this recording in your like files or whatever, I'll try and put it in a zip and send it to you.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.